Hey, everybody. Welcome to
Doesn't know his
our
theme song.
Wednesday live stream. Yeah,
Wednesday live stream. Oh, they're getting their headphones in. That means I can play the beginning music while they're waiting.
Go ahead.
Okay, beginning music. Welcome, everybody. Wednesday, February 5th.
This is missing the film.
The beginning music. There it is. February 5th of 2025. Today on the broadcast, we will be talking about Vote for Asteroid. If you get your votes in now, because it'll come in 8 years. Something? Well, so I don't know. Something like that.
Seven.
32.
Years. Okay.
7?
32. 7. Poe or no? A little incorruptible skepticism. Maybe dark Gothic Maga. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I don't know that. But probably and definitely telepathy tapes as a TikTok and more TikToks to come. All right. How's everybody doing?
Doing good.
Doing good.
Ish.
Bob
Ish.
is here. There's no Jay today. If anybody was
Bob
waiting
is
for a
today's
rant,
Jay.
yes,
Bob.
Bob is in for Jay. Bob is in for himself and for Jay.
Jay has morphed into Bob.
He is double Bob. Hold on, I'm missing Bob in this frame, and I gotta get him back. No, hold on, I'll fix it.
How's that?
There we go. No, it's for TikTok. The other one was fine. All right, good. We gotcha. Chat, how's chat? Everybody's good, relatively, hanging in there. Hopefully. I think we got
Kind
the
of.
chat up on screen, kind of.
I'm much better when I don't watch the news.
That's
Yeah.
You know, that's probably true of everybody.
The news is very destabilizing. I think that's the point.
Yeah, you'd
I
think
think it's
that
meant
is
to be
what-
destabilizing.
Yeah, mentally. Are you all grounded? Yes, we have copper mats underneath us. That is very. I bought it on TikTok. They said it's good.
Yeah, I was recently on. I'm assuming that's a reference to the fact that I was recently on God Awful Movies. We reviewed
Oh,
the movie Grounded,
That's true.
which is all about the grounding pseudoscience. It's horrible. It really is horrible. It's what happens when a documentarian who may have some documentarian skills looks at a topic which is pseudoscientific and they are not equipped to deal with it, to evaluate it. They become true believers, right? And then they use their documentary skills
Right.
to promote pseudoscience.
Oops.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah.
You hate when that. Sorry, there's a little grid at the bottom, but it should show the screen share, which is not. Stand by while I get that up there. There it is. God Awful Movies. Boom. So it's episode 492, it looks like. That was the most recent one that came out. If you want to go check them out, give them a subscribe and a listen and a follow and all that other fun stuff. Thank you very much, everybody. It's always a goofy time over there with those guys. Steve was the most qualified guest outside of Dr. Kara. That's true. It's true.
That was a lot of fun.
There was a lot of
Those
fun.
guys are funny.
Yeah. So let's get to some funny things before we go down the depressing things. So there was some. We can get onto the Poe or no, but let me do some other fun ones while we're here. Some people may or may not have seen this. Hank Green of
Hank Green fame.
Hank Green fame, and the Green Brothers and all that kind of stuff. He had a TikTok blow up recently, which I thought was good because it kind of elucidates maybe what we're all feeling in the critical thinking, skeptical world. Let's see what he says.
One of the things I like to remember is that I have no idea how anything works, especially when I definitely have no idea how anything works. Like, I don't know how helicopters work. I don't know how planes work. I don't know how many pilots are in a Black Hawk. I don't know what the other person in the Black. I don't know how many people can be carried in a Black Hawk. I don't know how air traffic control works. I don't know how flying a plane works. I desperately need you motherfuckers who liked this comment, the 22,000 of you. I need you to say to yourself, I don't have any idea how anything works. I just saw a video here on TikTok from a guy who was a pilot of Black Hawk helicopters who had flown that flight path over the Potomac many times before. And you know what his take was? A good one. It was a good take. Because he knew what he was talking about. You and I have no idea what the fuck is going on. We know jack shit. Can say it. I know jack shit. I know jack shit. I know jack shit. I need you motherfuckers to say this. I know jack shit. I am a little baby who knows jack shit about helicopter flying.
Anyway,
Yeah,
Here's a good crash
expertise.
out.
Expertise is meaningful. It's important, right?
Yeah.
Not many people believe that anymore.
That's something that we teach all the time is humility, right? Is knowing the limits of your own knowledge. But part of this is like, we always say this is Dunning-Kruger. Like, you don't know enough to know how little you know. And there's definitely something to that. And, the fact that when you start to learn a topic, like the first thing you really become aware of is how little you know. Like you learn just enough. That learning curve is really steep at first. You're like, oh, shit. There's a huge body of knowledge here that I have no idea about. This is not superficial. This is not something I can wrap my head around because I saw a show on it on TV once. This is a deep area of specific expertise and knowledge that you lack. Yeah. But then you have to take the next step, which means don't have a fucking opinion about it. Right? Is be humble enough to say, therefore, I don't really have it. The best you could do at that point is to try to understand what the experts think about it.
Exactly. And then that comes down to being able to vet the experts. And know who are the good experts and who are the bad experts.
Or who's just a real expert and who is just pretending to be, but they really have an ideology or
that's where a lot of people
or they're
fail.
Selling shit or whatever.
They will say, but I know jack shit now because I did my research with these people that don't know anything about it. So they feel confident. They won't agree with this guy.
It becomes a circle jerk of ignorance, which I just described 99% of TikTok. Not this part, not this corner of TikTok.
Not Hank Green.
Not Hank Green, not the skeptical science communication good corner.
Yeah, we're the good corner.
But just the tsunami of bullshit that it's buried in moment to moment. Yeah.
Anyway, that kind of blew up and it was very fun. Oh, yeah. Bob, bring your mic a little bit closer to you because I'm going to turn you up too, but a little quieter.
Bob, in 20 years, still not learned how to use a microphone.
They want to hear you yell like Jay does. He gets right on the mic and yell.
Don't expect Jay here. Don't expect Jay. I got my own vibe.
There will be no Jay rant today.
I can't do the Jay rant. That's his.
That's his go-to move.
It's his brand now. I got to figure out my own brand.
That's right.
We could talk about a little bit of politics and see what happens. Maybe we shouldn't, though.
Yeah, that's when we get a call in from Jay.
Do you want to talk at all about the flights that have the two ones that crashed? Like there was the medical flight that crashed in Philly, which is pretty terrible, and the conspiracy surrounding that. And then there's also the Black Hawk one with the big plane. I don't know how much you want to speak on that.
I don't know much. I mean, all I in terms of reliable information is like investigations are underway, and there's just speculation at this point.
Yeah, that's the problem.
The only thing I would be willing to say reasonably, with reasonable confidence, is that this was not due to DEI.
Right. Certainly. There we go.
Yeah, I think we could be confident about that, right?
I mean, the same policies have been in place for a long time, even going back to before Trump's first administration. Right. And the standards have not been altered. And that's, whenever someone says this bad thing that just happened, this was due to the thing that I believed in already, that I've been taught, that's always a red flag. Right. This is due to the thing, my pet peeve. This is due to my thing that I'm always talking about. And especially if it seems like there's a little bit of a leap there, how do you know this has happened? This is just common sense. You just know it. Oh, okay. You're just validating your own pre-existing political position. Got it.
Anyway. All right. Maybe we'll do a couple more fun ones in the meantime. I found this. This is a little neurologist, maybe inside baseball jokey to joke. Let's see if this actually strikes a chord with Steve at all. Neurologist goes to therapy.
Oh, this guy's funny.
Yeah. This is your office? Hello, neurology. It's a little sad. You trying to treat depression or cause it? It's always a pleasure. Tell me, which personality disorder will you be exhibiting today? Do you know how lucky you are to have the privilege of performing therapy on me? Ah, narcissism. Cluster B. One more cluster and you get to be featured in a case report. Ah, well, maybe you can publish it in the New England Journal of Who Gives a Shit. Neurology. That's enough. Please, have a seat. Let's get started. I don't even know why I'm here. My brain is perfect. Really? Yes, of course. Well, then let's go over some of the things your perfect brain decided to do over the last month. Be my guest. You congratulated a med student on getting this far in life despite, quote, a congenital absence of long-term memory. Listen, if a student can't remember complex neurological pathways, I have to assume there's a structural defect in their brain. You made the student get an MRI to see if he had a hippocampus. I did pay for it. You submitted an IRB proposal to evaluate the incidence of what you call smooth brain disorder among doctors. I'm a big proponent of research. You only enrolled orthopedic surgeons. Yes, that's right. Neurology? You are a bully. Don't be ridiculous. Oh, you don't think so? Well, within the past week, you described trainees in the following ways. A 6-foot-tall white matter lesion. Whoa. A synapse that ran out of neurotransmitters. And a real-life walking homunculus. That may have crossed a line. There are people at this hospital that think you should get fired. Oh, please, you can't fire me. How many neurologists out there have my unique combination of intelligence and personality? Many. Literally, so many. There's no way. I have 5 more therapy sessions today just with neurologists. It's impossible. There's one right there.
The face is just so ridiculous.
Yeah. Nice bow tie.
Yeah, the bow tie.
What do you say about that, Mr. Big Brain?
Anyway.
Oh, man.
So
little stereotype.
Yeah. What else does he do? What else does he poke fun at?
This kind of thing. The only other ones I've seen are when he's back and forth with himself. Satire about back and forth with himself, doing medical satire.
Yeah, he's pretty popular. He's pretty funny.
What's his name?
He is Dr. Glaucom Flecken.
The other one I saw not too long ago was where he's a neurologist, but other people, other specialists, are saying really dumb things.
Yeah,
and he's just sarcastically responding to their complete ignorance of neuroscience.
It's funny.
You just eat that up, Steve, don't you?
He loves it. No bow ties from Steve, though. So
I don't wear bow ties, but bow ties within neurology is a thing.
Yeah,
that is a thing. A lot of my fellow neurologists go the bow tie route.
Yeah,
there is actually something to be said for that. There have been a series of studies looking at least if you're in the hospital, right? Mm-hmm. That a bow tie, not a bow tie, but a tie, a regular tie, is a fomite. It actually, because every time you lean forward over a patient, your tie comes forward and picks up all of their germs, and then you go and you spread it to the next patient.
Okay.
So you shouldn't wear long ties in the hospital, but so you could wear a bow tie, or you got to wear a tie clip.
tie clip.
Yeah,
that's
to
true.
keep it pinned to yourself. Even then, that still is a potential
What
problem.
about a bolo tie? I mean, bolo is it's a little less surface area. You
Didn't
know?
right.
Yeah.
They didn't just study that.
I didn't say they didn't do. They need to do a bolo tie follow-up study,
Okay.
or you just wear no tie.
Or just no tie.
Just goes
Okay,
with the
that's
no
true.
tie.
You're a no tie man.
That's not why neurologists wear bow ties, but
Yeah, right.
That's true. That's a good
that
point.
just
Yeah,
happens
wait.
to be the
It's a
case.
nice side effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're following the research. They're
Right.
doing their research.
They're like, see, we were right all along.
Yep. So here's one that I found. Somebody actually tagged us in it, and they said like it's forgotten scientist. Wait, what was
Superhero
it?
of science.
Superhero of science. Thank you. Sorry, I butchered that. This one is what would you change? History if you had time travel. Me, that major discovery you made after years of studying DNA after you're passing Watson and Crick will take credit for it, win a Nobel Prize, and only give minimal recognition to your contributions. They'll also make unnecessary comments about your appearance in their writings. Don't let it happen. Publish your findings right away and make sure you get the credit you deserve. This is Rosalind Franklin. Wow, thanks for the heads up.
Yeah.
Is there some little time travel, I don't know, retribution? Is that time travel DEI? I don't know.
Time travel DEI. Yeah.
Well, as we know, it's risky as hell to mess with the timeline like that. But
That's true.
I think I would absolutely make myself quite rich.
That's a good
That's
point.
priority one.
Mm-hmm.
And then fixing society's ills.
Yeah, I'll think about
You'll
that.
think about it, yeah. Well, if you get around to it with all your billions. Anyway, somebody tagged us in that. I thought it was funny. Let's see. So we got some other things that are fun, and we could play a game of Poe or No.
Okay.
Which is a fun little game. I don't know why the audio doesn't go, but Poe or No. It's the fun game show where we figure out stuff, if this person is a Poe or not. So this is common practice on TikTok, is that people seem to post crazy things, and then we have to figure out whether or not they're Poe or not.
Will we get the final answer? Or
No, unfortunately, this is all up into interpretation.
It's going to be a mystery.
So here's science tools that mock us for believing the theory of gravity.
The elites mock us by putting things in our face. They place the truth in plain sight and weird places. Number one is a Galileo thermometer. So Galileo laid the foundation for the theory of gravity, and his thermometer works off of density and buoyancy. Each of these little ornament things are filled with a slightly different liquid, and they respond to the temperature of the medium that they're in. Next one is a basic
Okay, that one,
Yeah,
if you guys are familiar with flat Earth, which I assume you are, I think the concept is that everything is based on density, not gravity.
Right.
Right? Like, so things float up because of density, and then the things fall down because they're heavier or more dense, not because of gravitation.
But that only happens in a gravitational field.
Right. So yeah.
Right.
But I mean,
Because if you're in microgravity, like you're in orbit or you're in deep space, things do not sort by density at all.
well, so says you. Who even knows if there is a space? Isn't it all past the firmament anyway? You can't even get there. It's all painted on the ceiling.
So I wonder what their reply would be to that. That you have to.
No, they say it's fake. Yeah, they just say.
Yeah, I don't think. Do they believe in outer space? Like, isn't the firmament?
Some of them do not.
top?
The religious ones, the loons, do not.
Yeah.
And of course, everything from NASA is fake, right?
Right.
So you could dismiss all of space science as just being fake.
Yeah. So that's convenient. Okay. So then she goes on to this one, which is
hand boiler. All you have to do
That's a
is
fun
hold
little
it,
boiler.
and all of a sudden, all of my liquid is at the top. Is my hand boiler anti-gravity, or does everything work off of density and buoyancy? When the gas expands in the bottom, it pushes the liquid up to the top. Then I have an anti-gravity.
So, what do you think about that one?
Well, she gave the answer. You're heating you're heating it. It's expanding because it's the I don't know if there's like what the liquid is, but
Yeah, I mean,
it's designed to magnify that effect.
right.
Does
it's
does she
fighting
believe
gravity.
it? Does she
This-
believe it?
This
That's
is
the
also
question,
yeah.
right?
This is the main concept. Is this Poe or no? I think this next one is the one where I'm the
Is the
most
tell.
sure personally. That's why I picked this one. But let's see what she says.
Okay.
bird that plays on density and buoyancy by weighting the bird a very specific way. Does my $3 toy have an anti-gravity machine, or is the theory of gravity wrong? On top of the fact that it's been proven wrong over and over again, it's in our faces. Basic observations of your environment and things like this tell you the truth about it.
So like that one, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like that one is so crazy. I'm like, she's got to be just doing it for a shtick, right?
Yeah,
like,
either this is a Poe or she's really dumb.
Yeah, like
really
I
dumb.
don't even understand what she's trying to say with that last one, with the balancing. I'm like, okay.
I think she believes it.
You think she's on?
No, I think it's a Poe.
You think Poe? I mean, she's doing well, I'll say. Let's see how many. What was it?
A Poe is when somebody claims to believe something stupid, but they really don't.
Right.
And it could be because they're sort of, again, satirizing that dumb belief, or they're doing it for entertainment or whatever.
Which is what a lot of those TikTokers say, like, this is for entertainment purposes only. Although that seems to be a tell that they do believe it, and that they're like trying to obfuscate TikTok censorships or whatever.
It comes from the original source of being called a Poe. Was the name of the person who made the observation that when dumb beliefs or whatever, pseudoscientific beliefs become so absurd, they become indistinguishable from satire.
Nathan Poe.
Nathan Poe. There you go.
There you go.
What are her other videos like, I wonder?
Yeah, that's a good question. So she has like 250,000 followers, so she's, a couple million on, although we have an 8.8 million, no big deal. She only has 3.3.
Just saying.
Just saying. Although she has multiple millions, so okay, whatever. But, she does pretty good views on some of these stuff. Not crazy.
Are they all Poes?
There are a lot of things that are just in that wheelhouse of like, beef tallow is like a big thing nowadays about like using that as a moisturizer for whatever reason. I mean, the Book of Enoch, it's like crazy stuff. Bible, accurate, pulling toxins. It's all kind of in that shtick. It's hard to tell, but it does seem to fit with the idea that she's probably goofing. I don't know.
It's all a goof.
Who knows? It's
right.
It's whatever.
How despicable though, if that's like you promulgate that crap and you don't believe it. It's like, what the hell, man?
But the thing is, she might be thinking that nobody should believe this. That this is dumb enough that
if you know anything though,
I know. But the whole point of the Poe is that there are people who sincerely believe stuff that's so dumb it is indistinguishable. You can't make fun of it. It's indistinguishable from satire.
Right.
Right. Even if you're trying to make fun of something by saying the stupidest thing you could think of, there are people who actually believe something as stupid.
I mean, but you got to have some sense of responsibility that people will take this and run with it. Like people, even skeptics that have done, credulous skits or things, people will pick that up and believe it years later.
No, I agree. That's why we don't produce that kind of content. Is that it's too hard to prove that you're not feeding the crazy beliefs, right? And what's the point of it? There's enough of it out there. Unless you do it in such a way that it's obvious,
right? That
there's a tell.
Right. You need to tell.
There needs to be a tell. If you're debating whether it's a Poe or not, I think you failed. If your attempt was to make a Poe,
right?
Although, what if you do political satire so well, aka Veep, that then that doesn't seem as crazy as real politics? In the next coming, 4 years.
That's a different story.
Okay. So I was just wondering if that
No, I remember
reality.
Yeah, what's his
we
name?
were watching House of Cards.
Yes, right.
And House of Cards was like about a real, like what happens if a real manipulator gets into, the White House. And then after Trump's first term, it became like, well, this is actually not as bad as reality.
It's like,
so it became not entertainment. It was kind of weak. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, that's all you got?
It's like, come on.
That's not entertaining anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So we went through those kind of quick, but that's fun. We did. Now, we didn't do Vote for Asteroid. Why don't we do a little Vote for Asteroid? Bob is going to talk about this on the show tonight.
We can give a preview. So we're all going to get wiped out in 2032. So live it up.
Okay.
So they discovered an asteroid as big as a football field.
That's satire.
In the end of December 27th, and they look at this asteroid and
and that's a real picture of the asteroid, by the way.
Yeah, they got a cameraman out there.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Overtime.
So they did some projections and they said, "Damn, this thing is good. This thing could hit the Earth, and the likelihood is over 1%, which is the big klaxon red alarm. Over 1% probability definitely is a trigger for people to get scientists and organizations to get more interested in this. And so they keep refining the orbital projections. And this thing, it was a 1 in 88 chance of hitting the Earth in 2032. Then it was a 1 in 77 chance. Now it's a 1 in 66 chance. So yeah, I mean, still that means
it's only 1/3.
It's 90. Maybe
it's 1 in 3.
A 99%
take those
chance.
odds.
A 99% chance that this is going to miss the Earth, and it probably will miss the Earth. But still, this thing is. It's the scariest asteroid that I've ever met. Yeah. Worse than Apophis, because Apophis was so long ago. And they quickly discounted that. But this one they haven't been able to discount. But what makes this really scary is that we won't be able to definitively rule this out until 2028.
And by that, it'll
when
be
it comes
too late.
back, and it might be too late, which means that we have to start actually preparing for a worst-case scenario for this guy, like now.
And will we?
And the organizations,
notoriously good at that.
The watchdog organizations, well, I think they will be responsible about this if we can't get it.
Yeah, but what does that mean? Who's going to do it? What are we going to do?
It means they're going to make recommendations. Recommendations. Like this is the stuff that needs to be done. Oh yeah, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee at all. The best case scenario is that they find historical archives of this asteroid from years ago, and they determine its orbit very precisely because of it, and they could absolutely rule it out. But they've been looking for that footage for 2 weeks now. And they can't find it.
But I don't know. I have no idea if the context is that a long time. Should they have found it in 2 weeks, or is that we're looking for a needle in a haystack? It may take months to find it. I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but trying to read between the lines in the quote that I read, the guy was like, "It's been 2 weeks, so my hopes have diminished, a decent amount." Hard to say. So yeah, this one is kind of like, holy crap. I mean, and it's not big enough. I mean, this is not a extinction.
This is not an Ellie event.
Yeah, not a extinction level event. This would take out a city though, or if it hits the ocean, it could cause some tsunami. So yeah, people will die from this if it happens, but it's not globally catastrophic. But it's still like, wow, I'm going to be tracking this one, and I hope we get our shit together and decide if it's still at a greater than 1% probability. I think we might see some solid things happening to deal with it.
Right. What would those things be?
Well, the one that everyone's talking about is the DART. Remember the DART probe that smashed into?
Yeah, that's like the best.
That has shown that it can alter the orbit, and the asteroid that it hit was about as big as this one. So that's one way. Another way would be to nuke it, which is kind of scary though, because if it's more of a loose conglomeration of rubble, then you basically turn it into a shotgun with radioactive shotgun pellets. I mean, that's so hitting it with a nuke is not potentially a horrible idea. Then there's also the idea of a gravity tractor that you park. Yeah,
something. But in the time frame we have,
right,
the DART method's really the only plausible.
Probably,
thing. We have to hit it. But the thing is, we have to know enough about its orbit to know that we're going to make it less likely to hit the Earth, not more likely to hit the Earth, because we could have the unintended consequence if we don't know what we're doing.
Well, that's why when we hit it with the radar in 2028, then we'll be able to really refine its orbit and either rule it out or say we're kind of fucked. Can I say fucked?
Yeah. We've said it several times.
So,
what if we get a crew of like oil miners or something like that?
Yeah.
And just like play some Aerosmith.
Yeah, let's
blow it up.
Yeah, let's not take astronauts and train them in that. Let's just let's make the oil people astronauts.
The oil people. Anyway, so listen to this week's episode coming out on Saturday for more on this. And
for even more detail.
Even more
detail.
Crazy detail.
Crazy detail.
Yeah, like the what's the name of that? Never mind. I won't say it now. I'll talk about it tonight.
Okay, very good. So we could move on. There's some things you wrote about, Steve.
Yeah.
Which one? Do you have a preference of incorruptible
we
skepticism?
Start there.
All right. Oh yeah, the other one we'll do as telepathy tapes as a TikTok. So
yeah,
we'll
do it as
stay
a
with
TikTok.
that one. So let's look at something you wrote. Well, there's do apes have theory of mind? That's a fun one we could do, or you could do a little incorruptible skepticism. We didn't actually talk about this, although it was a TikTok we were going to do last week.
Yeah, I ended up not doing it, but I wrote about it. It's so there are claims, mainly by the Catholic Church, this is mainly a Catholic thing, that the bodies of saints are incorruptible. They do not undergo full putrescence, right? They do not fully decay. Yeah, so if when a body fully decays, it basically skeletonizes, right? It goes to all the soft tissue decomposes, and you're left with basically just a skeleton.
And that process creates my two favorite fluids, putrescine and cadaverine.
Yeah,
which have the best names ever.
The worst smells, but the best.
Yes.
Best names.
So yeah, but the if a body does anything less than full decomposition, then they say it is quote unquote incorruptible. Now this derives further from the idea that the body decaying is what happens when the soul is in purgatory. And the fact that their body doesn't decay means they went straight to heaven and bypassed purgatory. So that's the religious angle to it.
So everyone goes to purgatory then?
Yeah, pretty much.
I think that's,
Yeah.
Some Catholic doctrine says that.
Yeah. Everyone's got to suffer.
You got a little bit. Hey,
I did not know that.
you knew.
Everyone-
You stole that candy bar. We know, Bob.
No one's perfect. If you're not perfect, you go to purgatory for a while, and then when you're good, your body's fully skeletonized, then you can go to heaven. But if you're a saint, you just bypass the whole decomposition phase.
Do you remember that comedian? What was it? Guido Sarducci?
Yeah.
And he's like, masturbation is 25%, but it's 25%, 25%, 25%. Or like I gotta play it. I'm butchering the bit,
funny.
but it's very funny. All right.
Oh my
Anyway,
God.
go ahead. You go back.
So, again, I don't care what religious beliefs they have. The question, the thing is though, they're always flirting with the idea that this is like scientifically proven. Right, that we had doctors and experts examine the body, and they said this is unexplainable by science. This must be a miracle, etc. And they also, not that they directly lie, but the way the information gets communicated and propagated to the public results in a lot of misconceptions, especially by promoters, not necessarily official church doctrine, but the believers who believe it. So for example, the story will get out there that a doctor's investigated it, and this is the TikTok that we were going to look at the last week. Yeah. Doctors investigated the body and they said that it was like miraculously preserved. But then when you read the actual report, it was in a state of advanced decay. Right? Like the body had decayed.
Well, you could be both
significantly.
At the same time. No? You can't be both at the same time?
Both advanced and not.
Oh, boy. Somebody's lying.
And they also show signs of like mummification. Like they're dried out.
Yeah.
Right.
And then when studied, and the church sometimes does, study it, it turns out that the predictor of the state of the physical condition of the body is entirely dependent on the microenvironment in which they were interred, right?
Imagine that.
Imagine that. And if you move a body from one environment to the other, they'll start to decay if that's, what is dictated by the new environment.
But even if they're a saint?
Yeah. So saints, I guess, they get dragged back into purgatory if you physically move their body to one that's not as dry or whatever, then where the conditions are not as amenable to preservation. You could kill somebody. Before you kill somebody, you could say, if you don't do what I want you to do, not only will I kill you, but I'll move you around so that you go back into purgatory after you've left it. Right. There
additional layer of like manipulation.
This is something that they don't like deny or lie about, but they don't necessarily advertise, is that the bodies of saints are treated, like they will treat them physically in order to preserve them.
Yeah, well, of course they do.
Yeah. Like they'll sometimes use acid to kill bacteria or whatever. And then some of them, like if you actually see the bodies, like the ones for which there are pictures where you actually see a picture of a body, they always look mummified, right? Always, every time they look mummified. But sometimes they have a wax mask, which can look very lifelike.
Wow.
And again, they won't necessarily lie about it, but
you mean a fake wax mask or like a biological?
No, yeah, a manufactured wax mask like meant to. Face, right? They usually say, it's either for preservation or because they want to display, because they don't always display them. Sometimes they just dig them up every 100 years or so to see how they're doing. But the ones on display, like, well, the face might be a little upsetting to viewers, so we're going to cover it. Sometimes it's like a metal mask, like they're not. there's no
Iron
attempt
So metal.
to make it look real, like lifelike, but sometimes it looks, it's a wax figure, right? It looks like the day they died, basically. So at the end of the day, there's nothing miraculous going on, right? These are people that are decaying, just like anybody would, based entirely on the microenvironment.
Yep.
And how the body's being treated physically. There's nothing inexplicable. There's nothing miraculous. And all claims otherwise are exaggerations or out lies or just complete misconceptions, just without understanding what's actually happening.
Fun. But it's back on TikTok.
But it's back on TikTok.
Yeah.
I think they just suck it up and say, all right, they decay. Big deal. They're still a saint. It doesn't matter.
Well, they no longer require incorruptibility as a criterion for sainthood. So,
wow, how progressive.
well, it used to be considered a miracle, right? And therefore counts, because in order to be a saint, you have to have a miracle or two or whatever.
Oh, right.
So that it would count as a miracle. They no longer count it as a miracle. Well, it doesn't count as one of your miracles to be incorruptible.
So you really got to get on those miracles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to fake
Gotta
those
start.
before you die.
Yeah, come on, hey.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Whatever.
that's fun. Oh, so here's a fun little tidbit. Father Guido Sarducci, the comedian.
Yes.
His name, Don Novello.
Don Novello, that's right.
Novello.
There you go. Look at that. So
I knew
they're
that.
almost related, sort of. Not really.
No.
Hey, has anybody seen the movie about the making of Saturday Night Live?
I have not seen
really?
it. It's on my list.
It looks
but-
good. It looks good, but I don't know if it's.
But I think it's just like the first show, like the first episode.
Yeah, what it took to get
get
it
that
on
first
the air.
episode
First
up,
one.
yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And some of the actors they have portraying the classic first cast.
First season. Yeah.
Belushi, Asteroid,
Belushi.
all those guys. They look good. They obviously they look pretty similar. But it looks good, but I don't know. I haven't heard any feedback.
Who knows? That sounds fun though. I mean, it's an institution.
I'm watching Rogue Heroes. Just finished the first season.
Wait, what's that? Rogue Hero?
Rogue Heroes. Second season just came out in January, so we're going to start that soon.
What's the premise?
It's about a real group of soldiers in World War II. I don't know how accurate the dramatization is, but there is also on the same network they have a documentary about the real Rogue Heroes. So I plan on watching that just to see like how close it is.
Right.
But essentially,
not superheroes though, just regular heroes.
yeah.
100%
Boring.
on Rotten Tomatoes.
No, it's
Look at
not. So
this. Bam.
the story in a nutshell is during the Africa campaign of World War II, especially before the United States got involved, right? So the British Army was basically getting its ass kicked by Rommel, right, across North Africa. But one group of soldiers that were initially it's kind of a complicated origin, but they were like the captain who started it. It's like, listen, just give me 20 men and nothing else, and we're going to attack the planes on the ground. That was the idea. Because the Germans had pretty much air superiority in North Africa. It's like we could probably destroy more planes on the ground than the RAF is destroying in the air.
All right.
So it's all about them putting together a unit whose job was to do night, raids on from the ground, on the Nazi airfields and blow up planes on the ground, and then how that whole thing went, which is pretty successful campaign actually.
Okay.
And it involves further and further. That's where that is. So it's actually a fun story. But I am interested in finding out how historically accurate it is.
Yeah.
Is it like Inglorious Bastards?
Inglorious Bastards was completely, deliberately, historically inaccurate.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Quite.
It is. It is.
Fictional.
Yeah, it is. It is not. This one, is sold as this is mostly true.
Right.
Mostly true.
Mostly true.
What Inglorious Bastards is sold as a fantasy.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. This is a revenge
Good
fantasy.
movie. I
yeah.
love that
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
It's funny.
Yeah. But look, 100% and 86% on the popcorn meter.
Yeah,
which
it's
is
got
pretty
good
good.
rating.
100.
That's why we started
good.
watching it because the guy was good, well rated.
Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad.
Liz and I are tearing through The Expanse.
The Expanse is
Oh, the Expanse.
Now, all right, The Expanse, I watched a bunch of seasons years ago,
Yeah.
never finished it.
Same.
I've been bugging Liz, and I told her, hey, the first 3 seasons of The Expanse are leaving Netflix February 7th. She's like, oh, crap. And we've been binging it every goddamn night.
Are you going to make it?
We're almost through season 2. We're going to start season 3 probably later tonight or tomorrow. But it's so good. It's so
the first
good.
two
Oh,
were
my
really,
God.
really
And
good.
I want that Epstein drive so badly, but it's just like never going to be.
forgot.
It's just like basically a torch rocket engine where you get incredible thrust for weeks, which is almost physically impossible, maybe impossible. But it's, I mean, that's of course the one big gimme for that entire series, except for the proto-molecule, which is like...
Well, the alien stuff you got to get, that's the science fiction
course.
part. But in terms of
Shout out San Diego.
it is a hard science fiction. It is among the best, most accurate, hard science fiction space documentaries. But there's
Silac is right. Amazon. It's on Amazon. But the first 3 seasons are leaving. So you are correct. Thank you. All right.
But there's a couple of things that are that they have to compromise a couple of things. So one is at some point somebody invents this magical rocket fuel that has this really really good specific energy. So the amount the amount of acceleration you can get per the weight of the fuel, which makes it plausible to rocket around the solar system. Not just the inner solar system.
But even still, they're moving around that solar system way too fast.
If you really
track, you're like, wait a second. Even with an Epstein drive, you got there in a few hours. That's not going to happen. But it's funny because I'm at the point where they're going back 150 years, showing Epstein's first test with his new rocket design, and he hits the button, and it's like, of course, the G-forces are crazy. But he's like, I had no idea. I thought it would improve efficiency by 4%. Like, really? You would need a major rocket design change, and you're thinking only a 4%
when it was like a 300 or 400%.
When it was like mind-bogglingly, epically at the edge of physics, if even possible. So I'm not buying that he had no idea this was going to happen. But it's a great. That's
like the big gimmick, because again, they have to get the characters have to move around the solar system to make the story happen, and they also the other thing they throw in there is that they're pulling crazy sustained Gs. They have to take like injections of medicine to keep themselves alive to survive.
Right.
So they're actually using Gs that are not survivable without medical intervention.
Right.
So that's like sort of the combination. Like they're pulling massive Gs with this magical space, rocket fuel, and they have to you need medical interventions. And with those two things, they can get around in time frames that are semi-plausible for the story.
Right.
It's still a little bit fast, but
even still, they're rocketing around the solar system, and only once in a while do they go into the chairs and get the juice so that they can take the Gs. So that means they're only pulling maybe a couple of Gs most of the time, which you're not going to get very far just doing that. You have to be in that chair with that fluid in you most of the time.
Right.
But of course, and that would inhibit
the story.
The story.
The other thing that again, this has been universally true. I don't know. I'm sure there might be some science fiction work out there that does it, but I've never personally seen it, where they just completely ignore the effects of radiation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They don't talk about it. They're like in ships and space stations, whatever. They're exposed to.
Yeah, you're in Ganymede
space all the time.
You're near. You're near. So close to Jupiter that Jupiter is take basically your entire sky. Most of your sky is Jupiter. There's some areas in Jupiter, man, you don't want to be anywhere near that. It's like crazy radiation. But it's so good. It's hard enough to make me so happy to watch it because it's
even given those two things, it's still way better than anything else out there.
They have anti-radiation pills. What do you mean? Like
right.
Fallout.
Yes. Take some Rad-X. You're good.
The way they treat gravity, I remember reading about it back in the day. They treated gravity like a character. This was like even the scripts. If you had a yellow script, then you were Earth normal gravity. If you had a blue script, then you were like a Belter gravity, very 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 low gravity, or Mars gravity. It was all color coded so that they would know. Just so it would be obvious, but highly recommended.
Somebody asked us a question here was the pod. Oh wait, where was it? I asked us on SBM. Does anyone use the pods in laundry or dishwashers? Do we know if they release microplastics?
Dishwashers. I use it in laundry all the time.
Yeah.
Are they bad now too?
I don't know. It seems like there's some mixed.
I haven't looked into it recently, so
yeah, who knows? I just go to Costco and they have liquid, so I just use the liquid. I don't even know. I was using it.
The pods are great though. You just throw 2 or 3 in there.
Don't mix
done.
them up though. Don't actually accidentally put the laundry ones in the dishwasher.
Are they different?
Yeah, you can taste it, and I'm speaking from.
Oh, if you put the laundry one in the dishwasher, you
can
can taste it.
Dishwasher.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it did not go away for like 10 washes.
Oh my God,
boy!
Yeah, we have like right next to the dishwasher. There's the bucket. Like the pods are right there, so you got to be. There's no way we can make that mistake.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So let's move on to some other fun stuff. So this is just a fun little bit that somebody does on TikTok about podcasting equipment. Should it be more expensive? Or cost prohibitive, maybe. Is
barrier to entry, right? Barrier to
entry.
Not
crazy. You're crazy for thinking my day is 6 a.m. to noon, and I'm not crazy. You're crazy for thinking it takes 24 hours, just like some dude in a cave did 300 years ago. My second day starts at noon and goes till 6 p.m. That's day 2. And then the next day is 6 p.m. to midnight. What I've done now is I have changed and manipulated time. I now get 21 days a week. Stack that up over a month, I'm going to kick your butt.
What?
So this is the bit where they just unplug their mics and they're just like they're the producers is the bit. Like they do this with like a ton of things on TikTok where they're just like unplug the mic, please. It's like, this should be way more expensive.
Was that guy real?
That guy is real for other stuff. He probably was joking in this
Poe or
one.
no.
Yeah, it's another kind of Poe or no situation. No. But this dude does have some crazy beliefs and some other stuff. So
what was he saying? Like he just shortens the day, so he has 21 days per week or something?
No, he could do a day's worth of work.
I think that's the claim.
6 a.m. to noon, and then noon to 6 is another day, and then 6 p.m. to midnight is the third day.
Right.
But
it's like hustle culture kind of thing, like rise and grind. I'm constantly working, blah, blah.
Good for you.
Yeah, I guess. It's like the guy, there's also like a workout culture aspect of this where people will like blend up all their food so they can ingest it as fast as possible. And they're like, no, I'm not spending 30 minutes on lunch. And it's like, what?
Yeah, but how long did it take you to blend up all the food?
I know, right? Yeah.
Plus, food is meant to be enjoyed.
No, not if you're rising and grinding, Bob.
Oh, my God. It's one of the pleasures of life. Jesus. I'm reading a book, a science fiction book by Neil Asher, and there's a planet called Founder's World or something where the people left Earth years ago, and their goal is they're afraid that the AIs were going to take over. Mm-hmm. So they said the only way to deal with AIs and prevent them from taking over is to actually become cyborgs, an AI, cyborgs. So the whole culture has been designed to turn people into cyborgs. So they basically they eschew biology and humanity so that things like enjoying oh my God, enjoying food and sex and even puberty, they delay puberty, and then once you reach 18 they start chopping limbs off and replacing them with robotic parts. And the ultimate expression of humanity in their mind is they call it a human plug. It's basically your head and some of your torso, and that's it, and they just plug you into the machines. And it's like, oh man, really? That's what so that when this guy guy starts tasting real food. He's like, "What's it with this food? I mean, it tastes incredible." It's like, yeah, that's real food, because they were just eating flavorless, nutritious paste and shit. So it's like, oh man, that's extreme.
If you could become a stack from Altered Carbon, would you do it?
Next question.
That's an interesting one. Well, because what?
Fuck yeah.
But the stack. Well, it wasn't the stack that you could re-download yourself, so you're technically dying, or was it you had to move the stack into another body?
Yeah, it depends how you
Isn't that part of the problem?
How your brain becomes a stack is the critical question.
There's a continuity issue.
Yeah, but if they actually have a stack that's attached to you when you're born, and your brain kind of migrates slowly into the stack, then that's another thing. But I would totally do that. But assuming that there's other bodies that you could plug the stack into, if they're not available, then what's the point?
Well, do you think the continuity issue arises also if you do like a wetware Ship of Theseus style replacement of cells? Is that still
wetware?
I don't buy that one.
You don't buy that. It would be.
It has to be functional. It has to be functionally enmeshed. Right. In terms of like your brain and whatever you're migrating the brain into have got to be. Part of this, that to coexist as one.
What if you're not migrating? You're just like replacing dead cells in your brain. Or
okay,
but
you could.
But still technically migrating.
Well, that's a technique. If you replace cells slowly over time with the hardened, silicon-based whatever, hardware-based neurons, then I think that's a vile method.
But then you're still just that, whatever that brain is, whatever it's made out of. Right. You still can't move to something else.
Right.
Yeah, but then you could take out the brain and just plug it in something else.
Yeah.
Potentially. Can I ask legal questions? This is not Legal Eagle. You can go find them on YouTube. You can join the.
You can ask.
You can ask. We probably won't.
We don't give legal advice.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to give that. Or medical advice.
Or medical advice. Or investing advice.
Or financial advice.
Yeah.
Or relationship advice. Maybe we will. I don't know. It seems like that's not regulated. All right, let's see if we got some other stuff before we get onto some of the TikToks. Okay, so here's Bluff City. Have you guys heard of Bluff City, Utah?
Oh, yeah. I've been there many times.
You're bluffing.
Bluff City, a town in Utah. So it's a town, but it's like I think it's it is incorporated in 2018, but it's like a tiny little town. But let's see, or it's an area of like with very few people. But let's see what these people seem to suggest Bluff City is all about.
This dude gave a story on TikTok where he went to Bluff City, Utah. And he's like, but what I experienced there had me question if we're in a simulation. He said we were at this hotel, and then we went to a grocery store and then a restaurant. And he said people were weird acting. They were like not expecting someone to come in. Yeah. For instance, he went to the hotel clerk. He said, hey, can we get some towels for our room? She's like, oh, actually, I don't know where they're at. This is my first day on the job. What? And then he went to the store and something wasn't working. Weird. And she's like, I'm so sorry, this is my first day on the job. Weird. And then he went to a restaurant and the card wasn't working. And she's like, I don't actually know how to work this machine. This is my first day on the job. Dude. And he's like a Truman Show. What is happening? Yeah. But then another guy who duetted it, he didn't have a story like that, but he said he stopped in Bluff City and he saw this hitchhiker girl walking on the side of the road, but his car was packed. He's like, I can't pick her up or whatever. He said 30 miles down, the same girl was walking.
Now. But like, that always reminds me of the Truman Show. There's got to be a civilization or a community that's pulled that off.
North Korea.
So, see, the thing is, running into person after person after person that says, this is my first day on the job. That's normal. I mean, our entire federal government is going to be like that in about a week, right? Every person's going to be like, this is my first day on the job, right? That's how it's going. So that's not a problem.
They might have just been seasonal hires.
Right.
Yeah,
you think.
Or the guy's lying.
Or on drugs, or some.
Or this is a friend of a friend of a friend story that doesn't really exist.
And they just like had to backfill. These guys are notoriously like they put together these like kind of slop TikToks of like just. The conspiracy music, the out of place AI like interstitials, Yeah. Initially, I said that Bluff City doesn't exist. It does exist. There's 200 people that live there.
200 people.
So it's a pretty sparsely populated area of Utah.
Is that even a city? It's a village.
It's like one family.
Right. Yeah. Right.
that could explain some of that too.
So yeah, exactly. So seasonal hires seems much more likely than what government reprogramming people or some who even knows.
It's a simulation.
Simulation, right?
I mean, imagine how high the threshold of evidence would have to be for you, Steve, or me to say, or Ian to say, wow, we're in a simulation. That proved it. What would you even have? Because I can't even imagine. I mean, I know it's slippery slope. You can't just say, there's no evidence that would change my mind. But I'm just trying to think, what would it take?
It would be the threshold's very high.
Yeah,
it's never impossible. It's never like nothing could ever possibly change my mind. If we were living in a simulation, then there might be some evidence that we could could see to at least suspect that we might be living in a matrix. But just like some guy said that he passed the same person 30 miles down the road. Okay,
I mean. Shouldn't you exclude the possibility that person has an identical twin at the very least? At least move that off the game board first.
What was that movie? There's a movie about Joan of Arc, right? And then she's in prison for heresy or whatever because she thought that, she found a sword in the grass and she thought that it was divine intervention, right? That God gave her the sword. Sure. And then she's talking to a character who I think is in her mind. Right,
okay.
Not somebody who's really there. And the guy was playing devil's advocate. He was like, so you come across a sword on the side of the road, and you don't consider that it could have been an accident. Like then they cut to like scenes of like playing out, like what might have happened.
Right.
Like it's falling off of the back of a wagon or even the inexplicable, like some guy just tossing his sword aside. You went straight to a sword miraculously floating down from the heavens, like divine intervention. It's like a little bit of Occam's razor would have been
right.
Or
been like if a hand comes out of a body of water with a sword in it. Yeah. All right, that's special. Yeah, that seems kind of special.
Probably walked on a movie set and didn't realize it, but yeah.
An aquatic tart.
Yes. Some farcical aquatic ceremony.
You fetid moppet.
Yeah. Who voted for you? Okay.
Well, I didn't vote for you.
Name that reference, chat.
Come on.
If
you don't get that, you lose your nerd card.
Anyway, all right. So these guys are popping on TikTok. Let's see. They got 1.7 million on that one. So
fuck them, Ian. I mean, seriously.
Give us 1.7 million. All right. So we could move on to some TikToks, or we could do the telepathy tapes as this, Weissenbint. I don't know how you want to do the telepathy tapes. If you want to do it as a discussion, or should we do?
How are we doing with our TikToks? Are we have enough to keep going?
I mean, I have a bunch to keep posting. I haven't posted a bunch, so I have.
Oh, okay. So we could do it just as an open discussion, and then I'll just do the one TikTok today about the animal-human hybrid.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds
good. Hybrid.
It's a hybrid.
It's
actually not a hybrid.
I guess
we'll get there. We'll talk about it.
All right.
So we could do telepathy tapes. We could, if there's time, we could watch that video a little bit.
The
of
dark Gothic Maga.
It's an interesting one that a lot of people sent us.
Sounds interesting. I don't know what the hell.
A lot of people tagged us in it. My sister even sent it to me. She's like, "What do the skeptics guy think of this?" I was like, "Okay, well, we'll see." But here's telepathy tapes. So
did we talk about this on the show?
We did talk about it on the show, but I wrote about it on Science-Based Medicine today.
Yeah, let me
as well. I went into a little bit more detail.
Let me stop and start the recording real quick. I'll stand by. Everybody.
So you can listen to the last 2 weeks of the SGU where we talk about it, and you can read my Science-Based Medicine article where I like to get into more detail.
That's right.
But basically, the telepathy tapes. I don't know if they're still the most popular.
I think they are
podcast.
Up there.
They're up there.
I was talking to somebody and they were talking about it with me, and I was like, just randomly brought it up, and I was like, oh boy, I'm pretty sure it's BS. Just to let you know.
They were talking about it as if it's real.
If it's real, yeah. They were like, oh, I think it's maybe there's something there. Just science hasn't quite figured it out yet, and I'm like,
or no,
maybe. I mean, it was.
I demand a shrubbery.
I know. I had to be nice because
the core claim that's being made here, again, documentarians getting in way over their head on a topic they are not fit to evaluate.
Let me start the recording. We'll start it for real. All right, go ahead.
All right. So, the telepathy tapes. Again, another example of documentarians getting in way over their head, talking about the topic that they do not understand. Apparently, there's no evidence that they ever consulted experts or that they understand the phenomenon that's going on. They basically went in and did their own study. They did like a pilot study, right? So they went back in time 40 years, as if no one's ever researched this before, did a pilot study on something that already has been researched for 40 years, came up with the predictably wrong results, and then said, oh man, there's something going on here. This should be studied with more rigor and controls. It's like, or you could read the last 40 fucking years of research.
Right. Or at the very least, read my blog post I did 20 years ago about it. That would have helped.
So this is all facilitated communication, right? And FC, which again I've written about dozens of times probably on Science-Based Medicine by this point, because it keeps rearing its other head, and its ugly head in different brands, right? It's like low energy nuclear reactions. It's just rebranding of facilitated communications, like spelling to communicate. It's the same thing. It's FC. The idea is that some individuals who are nonverbal, right? So you might have autism, or you have developmental delay, or you had whatever. Something's going on where you are nonverbal. They say, well, maybe they're intellectually more developed, more advanced than is apparent, but they just have a communication problem. Maybe they're just physically unable to communicate, but not intellectually unable to communicate. That is a perfectly reasonable question to ask, right? That is a perfectly reasonable hypothesis. Sure. The brain's complicated. We have this question when patients have brain damage, right? Not a developmental problem, but a brain damage, either a stroke or a traumatic brain injury or whatever. Is their inability to communicate due to the fact that, nobody's home, or is it because they just are physically paralyzed or whatever? So, or maybe they're aphasic. It's an isolated language problem. Here they're saying it's not a language problem. It's not an intellectual problem. It's a physical problem. And if you facilitate the patient, you could get them to communicate. So there's basically two kinds of things you can do. You could say support, like if my right hand is the facilitator, my left hand is the client. So you support the hand of the client, and so then they could move their hand. They're not strong enough to hold it up on their own. So you hold up their hand, and then they move their hand onto a typewriter or onto a letterboard, and they type out their communication.
Sure.
Sometimes they can't even fully direct their own hand, but they indicate to the facilitator which direction they want to go in, but the facilitator has to help them move to the right key. The other thing you could do is you can hold up a letterboard, right? If you're able to point your finger, you're able to point your finger, it's like, all right, point to the letter you want, but they can sort of move the board to help them get to the letter.
Right.
Now, sometimes it's the ideomotor effect, right? They're not aware they're doing the movement. It may be completely subconscious. And there were many well-meaning people who believed that this worked, that they found this way to break through to these kids, who were nonverbal autistic or whatever. But then they subjected the technique to blinded trials that were designed to test what we call authorship. Who is the author of the communications? And so when you blind the facilitator to the target information, the effect completely, and I mean 100% vanishes, right? There's the client is unable to communicate when the facilitator is blinded to what they're trying to communicate or to the board itself. In some of the most egregious cases, technically speaking, the client's not even looking at the board.
Yeah.
Right. So if here's the, trying to get to my fingers are not where the overlay is. So if here's the typewriter, if they're looking over here, you can't one touch type, one finger type, without looking at the keyboard or without looking at the letterboard. It's impossible. There's no way you could have that kind of precision of feeling where your hand is. They're able to do it. They're able to do what even neurologically normal and intact people can do, like neurotypical people could do. Nope, they can't do that actually. And then so over the years, again, if your outcome is disconnected from reality, right, then it might appear that, these kids, not only can they it's not like they're just barely able to communicate basic ideas. It's like they're writing poetry. They're reading and writing on an advanced level beyond their years, way beyond their education. In some cases, in different languages, And then, so the telepathy tapes is basically the logical extension of this, that not only can they communicate, they can read and write above their age or their grade level. Not only do they have superhuman intellectual capability, they're psychic. They're also psychic. Not only are they psychic, but they are plugged into the Akashic files, right? The cosmic file, store of all information. And apparently they can communicate with each other in this virtual sort of spiritual space. It's they can't do any of that, and this is all just self-deception and facilitated communication all over again.
And abuse.
It's total abuse. I linked to a Wikipedia page where it goes over all the cases where people were accused of abuse and felonies and rape and whatever based upon testimony that was obtained only through facilitated communication.
Wow.
So people's lives were destroyed by this. There was also this one famous case where a woman, basically she raped a male client and then claimed he had given consent through facilitated communication. The court didn't buy it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's massive demonstrable harm. So it also, contributes to the total cultural phenomenon we're experiencing. Like, well, like what you said, Ian, it's like, well, science doesn't know everything. It's like, it's basically like those experts, those scientists say that this is impossible, this is wrong, but here it is, it's happening. So we can comfortably ignore experts. They never know what they're talking about, right?
Just experts.
Right. So this contributes to the dumbing down, the anti-intellectualism, this overall pseudoscience of society as well. This sort of, anti-scholarship, anti-intellectualism. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. That's the Telepathy Tapes. That's the most popular podcast in the world.
I was going to say.
Wait, it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see if it's the most popular podcast.
At least for a time it was. I don't know if it still is.
Yeah, it supplanted like Joe Rogan even.
Yeah,
It was like,
it even shot past Joe Rogan for a bit.
What?
How
was...
Every generation's going to have to learn the same things over and over and over again. Every generation's going to flirt with UFOs and then realize... Bigfoot, there's nothing here. Eventually, that I think is just boredom. Most people can only sustain the belief that a big major revelation's right around the corner for so long. After 4 or 5 years, it kind of gets backburnered. Like they go on to something else. Yeah, so there's the truth. There's the fanatics, the true believers that go.
I don't know who Mel Robbins is. Joe Rogan, we know who he is. Brett Cooper, she's like a popular right wing. Theo Vaughn, he's a comedian. Candace Owens, another right winger. Ray William Johnson, he's whatever. Sean Ryan, weird. Call Her Daddy. They're
down number 9 now.
One. Yeah, down to number 9. But they shot up pretty quickly.
Wow.
I mean, that's pretty up there.
Where are we?
Yeah, I think I gotta keep scrolling.
Septuple digits. Can you search?
I don't think we cracked the top 100.
I could probably search. Yeah, I mean, this is also Spotify, so it's a little bit different because like we're probably more popular on Apple than Spotify specifically. Right. But yeah,
Good save.
Yeah, so I don't have to look it up and feel bad. We were top 50 of the Patreon, podcasts for a while, but then a bunch more popped up that are really, really popular.
Bastards.
But I guess it proves the point that like people are eager to hear and believe this kind of stuff. The person that I was talking to was like, I'm pretty sure has a kid with autism, and so was like,
the appeal is obvious and undeniable.
Yeah, so it's like, God, it's like so.
That's why it's so exploitative.
Exactly.
It's of the parents, of the child themselves. It's terrible. Professionals should know better.
Yes,
I don't blame the parents who are being told.
Oh my God, yeah.
That your child is actually there's an actual
It's a person in there.
There's a person in there, and they love you and all this stuff. Versus
horrific.
But the professionals they absolutely 100% should know better.
Yeah.
It's inexcusable.
Yeah, that's a part of their job. That's something that human psychology. That's part
First
of their
do
job.
no harm.
Yeah.
First do no harm.
It's like John Edwards being taken seriously from a therapeutic standpoint or something like that. Like, which I guess some people do, but like maybe not professionally. John Edwards was the person who talked to the dead, if anybody doesn't know that.
Oh my God.
From back in the day. I mean, there's still plenty of people who do that.
Oh yeah.
I think the Long Island Medium or whatever she does it still.
Yep.
Anywho, so there's
as
that.
Perry liked to say, because this is good. People live quiet lives, or desperate lives of quiet desperation, or something like.
No, pointless. No,
something like that. Lives of quiet desperation.
Quiet desperation is the key.
They're most people they're just bored with their life, and so anything interesting like this that comes out is like that's enough of a motivation.
Right.
There's always say, just take up a hobby. Have a fantasy life. Yeah. That's fine.
Have you thought of fantasy football?
Yeah, do something.
Make Halloween props.
Or LARPing.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Or LARPing.
Live action role playing. Or coming to Nauticon.
Yes, Nauticon. Or go to Nauticon.
Go to Nauticon, which is happening May. Well, I don't have the image.
May something or other.
May something, 2020 something.
2020 something. It's happening.
This
you
year.
will be there.
This year.
There it is. Boom. May 6th. Yeah, 15th is the VIP night and the board meeting, which I think is all full. There's sort of VIP tickets available. Actually, I gotta go and probably add.
May 16th and 17th is the main conference.
It's gonna be. I can't wait. That's gonna be so much fun. The last one was just so fantastic. Oh God,
it's a lot of fun. Now I know we call it not a con because you're not going to be sitting in lectures, but there's still content. Like we're still doing stuff. It's still going to be educational and entertaining.
But it's going to be interactive, and
but it's going to be everything we try to maximize interactivity
and social time
and socializing,
just hanging out, chatting.
Yeah.
And in fact, we released the schedule.
The schedule.
Schedule. So it has more stuff.
Good work, Jay.
There's going to be more stuff on like
there's a lot of stuff happening.
But this is a little precursor, so you can kind of get a hint of what's happening.
Jay worked his ass off for that. Good work, Jay.
He's putting it together. Yep. So it's good. It's good. So let's see. What could we do? We could do Dark Maga if you want to hear a little bit of it. We could stop it if it gets too painful.
Yeah.
Which
I like dark Gothic things, but what's this Maga word that's thrown in there?
So
are they going to sully that?
You know, with the world being what it is, some people were talking about it at the beginning of the live stream. You know, are we staying sane? This is a little introduction maybe to how the tech billionaires, or the bro-oligarchy as they're being called, what some of their plans, what they seem to suggest their plans are for the U.S. And so we can see if this is maybe conspiratorial thinking or if them saying it outright is reason for concern. I'm going to increase the speed a little bit just so it's like 30 minutes, but we can maybe
we're not going to do 30 minutes. Yeah, just do a couple minutes to get a flavor.
No more than 20.
Yeah. So I felt like a boot off the throat. Like every morning I wake up happier than the day before because all of these forms of repression that I just had gotten used to.
Hallelujah. Disappeared so far up their own woke asses. If those people stay in control, I think that the Republicans could have an electoral majority as far as the eye can see.
It's really the dawn of a new crypto era.
The future is going to be amazing!
More than any other sector, the tech industry invested in this election. Crypto accounts for more than half the corporate spend, with no other industry coming close. It's not unusual for industry to use their money to buy influence, and at a superficial glance, that's all the tech VC world wants. They want lower taxes and friendly regulation. They want the head of the Federal Trade Commission out. They want the tech industry to be responsive to the Future Commodities Trading Commission, not the Securities Exchange Commission. Except that's not all they want. Behind the money and influence flowing into the Trump campaign are a set of bizarre beliefs and a dark agenda.
I'm not just MAGA. I'm dark, Gothic MAGA.
You see, the tech bros of Silicon Valley believe that the American empire is on the verge of collapse. Silicon Valley wants to speed this up, but use the coming administration to create safe landing zones for them and their cash, where they can also run their own governments. And what is so annoying about this is it makes me sound crazy. It makes me sound like a conspiracy theorist. But I'm talking about crazy people. I am talking about the guy who wants to colonize Mars. I am talking about the guy who said he gave up on democracy in 2009. These tech bros justify their point of view because they believe that that's their natural place in society. The courageous geniuses on the new frontier. I'm not speculating. These men say it. They say it on podcasts and at conferences and in interviews and in blog posts. Some are quiet, some are very, very loud, but they all are on board.
And I think that if we want to increase freedom, we want to increase the number of countries.
If you want to replace the elite that you have today, what you need to do is you need to have a better elite. And there's a way to do this. It's been done before.
We get kind of money and property right, and that it's a strong foundation for building, kind of a world that we all want to live in. We're seeing, some breakdown of those in the real world in the United States lately.
I'm definitely very interested in ways that you can sort of tokenize real estate and actual physical land to create better forms of society and governance. I do think America is in slow decline right now. I would like us to all in crypto think about how we actually go create physical places in the world to preserve freedom over the long term. I think that's ultimately crypto's destiny.
The people of Mars will be more enlightened and will not fight amongst each other too much.
It's basically tech libertarian futurism, an ideology around technology, and including technology enhancing human freedom.
I am trying to fix government in the U.S. The point was let's have a new government.
Where do we sort of go from the wisdom of crowds to the madness of crowds? We're far too far on the side that you can describe as collectivist, centralized, Borg-like, conformist, and also generally just simply incorrect.
I think that what Elon's doing is showing a path to fighting back. The left-wing elite's going to be kicking and screaming the whole way.
Mark Cuban, one of the more normal billionaires, had this to say about this particular group of men that I'm talking about.
What's happened in Silicon Valley is insane.
Right.
It's not so much a support thing, it's more like a takeover thing, trying to put themselves in a position to have as much control as possible. They want Trump to be the CEO of the United States of America, and they want to be the board of directors that makes him listen to them.
Now, this hypothetical board includes a couple of power players that I think are worth keeping an eye on, namely Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Brian Armstrong, Mark Andreessen, Ben Horowitz, and David Sachs. In this video, I'm going to try and lay out what I think these people are doing behind the scenes. If you do want to dive further into this topic, I recommend looking at the work of Gildaran. I have linked his blog below. This is his beat, and he's amazing at it. This man is named Balaji Srivastava. Like Beyonce, he tends to only go by his first name. Balaji is highly involved in the tech scene, and while not a billionaire himself, he is friends with a lot of them. He's a former partner of Andreessen Horowitz. He is the former CTO of Brian Armstrong's Coinbase. Thiel actually recommended Balaji to be the head of the FDA during the first Trump administration. Balaji wrote a book. It's called The Network State: How to Start Your Own Country. In that book, he talks about how to break nation states apart into smaller territories which can then be run like corporations.
What I mean by Silicon Valley's ultimate exit. It basically means build an opt-in society, ultimately outside the US, run by technology. And this is actually where the Valley is going.
You see, like many in the industry, Balaji is a disruptor. He is interested in disrupting the current idea of nationhood through the creation of a network of sovereign, tech-run territories protected by military-grade security. Balaji wasn't the first person to come up with this idea, not even in the tech scene, but he was the first person to present it in a more palatable way. The idea actually comes from someone named Curtis Yarvin. In Patchwork, Yarvin wrote, "The basic idea of patchwork is that as the crappy governments we inherited from history are smashed, they should be replaced by a global spiderweb of tens, even hundreds of thousands of sovereign and independent mini-countries, each governed by its own joint stock corporation, without regard to the residents' opinions." Patchwork is a reboot of the current system in order to install a new operating system. Yes, Yarvin is a software developer with a company named Urbit, invested in by Peter Thiel. He refers to these small territories as patches, but he's flexible about how they might run, maybe like a corporate urban space or a city-state like Athens. These corporate dictatorships would use all-seeing surveillance to protect their citizens and enforce their laws. There would be biometric IDs. If you're poor, you will have to move to another patch. Or the poor could be ground up and used as biodiesel, or locked into a virtual reality prison. Now, Yarvin said he was joking about the biodiesel thing, but not about the prison thing. So I'm not sure if he was joking about the biodiesel, which gives us an understanding of why Balaji had to come up with a more appealing way to present this idea. Balaji has less about dictatorship and mass incarceration, and more about freedom and opportunity. A lot of people in the industry acknowledge that Balaji's ideas are a little out there.
This is Balaji.
Yeah, this is Balaji.
And I would dismiss them too if those same people weren't actively funding them. Millions of dollars are being funneled into these projects as we speak. This is the website for Praxis, a network state funded by Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, Balaji, and Sam Altman, through their shared capital fund, Pronomus, which is dedicated to funding the creation of network cities. The website for Praxis says, "As local communities dissolve and nation-states stumble, network states will ascend. The next global superpower will be a network state. The next America will be on-chain." The stated goal of Praxis is to build a corporate government with a global footprint. It will have territories all over the world. Crypto will be its currency. The modern global system, once the greatest power in the history of man, has become a brittle, jerry-rigged contraption incapable of carrying out the most basic functions. As these governing institutions continue to degrade, people will come to realize that no one is truly on their side. As nation-states falter, network states become inevitable. I should mention that Pronomus Capital is funding the creation of other network states, many of which are further along than Praxis. Some examples are Prospera in Honduras, Afropolitan, Itana, and small farm cities in Africa, Metropolis in Palau, and I think Young Drunk City is planned for South Asia. On Pronomus' website, they claim, "Decades of research on economic development has shown that the primary determinant of prosperity is the quality of a country's laws and the integrity of its courts, administrators, and other legal institutions. When institutions are outmoded, corrupted, or failing, the result is untold human suffering. Yet upgrading national institutions is notoriously difficult. Our solution? Build the cities of tomorrow." Right now, they are creating cloud communities, virtual nations. Once they have access to land, they will get their citizens to migrate to that city. Have a look at the pledge that you sign when you join Praxis.
That's probably good.
Which you can join right now.
Okay, so anyway. So
we
that's
got
like
the idea.
Yeah, so that's the general concept of this claim. And like she said at the beginning, it does make everything sound so conspiratorial. But also, it's like...
it's hard to be dismissive.
Right, exactly.
Of all of it, given what we're living through the last 2 weeks.
Right, literally.
You know, where they are, you know, literally trying to dismantle the federal government.
It sounds
deep
so
state.
crazy, though. But... Anyway, this video is Blonde Politics, the Silly Serious. She's pretty good about a lot of the stuff that she does. You can go watch the rest of the video. It's another 20 minutes. She breaks it down. It's an interesting thing. Mm-hmm. There's some compelling aspects to it.
Yeah.
I don't know how likely it is to be. It could just be, you know, literally libertarian fever dream, like, you know, wet dream, whatever you want to call it. You know, and like there's no way that it would actually work. But it is like, you know. whatever.
Yeah, I mean, how do you survive the transition to such a thing? I mean,
Right, that's the thing. They could just break the system so far that you're not going to get to these network states, but the system is broken. The country is no longer.
It's a lot easier to break things than to build them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Although we could create an
baby.
SGU state. Should we create an SGU? Which state should we take over? I mean, Connecticut's got the best pizza, so
Yeah, it's true.
we'll probably just have to take this over. Sorry, everybody.
We'll call it the Pizza State.
Pizza state.
An alliance of pizzerias.
Pizza Novella.
A network
Have
of
you
pizza.
ever had pizza in Brooklyn?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Brooklyn, that's
Oh,
true.
boy.
All right, we'll annex Brooklyn too.
All right.
That's too far. Yeah. It's a
Yeah, whatever. I mean, obviously, this is pushing the limits here, but
it's hard not to be like.
Are there individuals who are thinking that
Yeah.
way?
Right.
Sure.
Why not? Yeah,
of course.
I believe that, but
but
beyond,
if they think it's going to be easy to dismantle the United
Yeah.
States government,
It's creating a utopia, but or maybe dystopia.
it's a
but
dystopia. The whole the whole libertarian thing.
But I just feel utopia or dystopia is not possible.
It depends on how much money you have, right?
Yeah. I mean, they could make it in some other country that's like, abject poverty, and they'll just, end up hurting a lot of people. But I don't know if America will fall down that route.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of TV shows about it and movies. Hey, Hunger Games. At least there's games in the Hunger Games. You know what I mean? It's fun. Or if anybody, did you guys watch Revolution? Did you ever watch that TV show, Revolution?
Revolution.
is it a movie?
It was a TV show. Let me see if I can pull it up. It got canceled, although it was really interesting TV show because there's a reveal. I almost don't want to give it away, but it's kind of hinges on the whole thing. Is that micro robots basically spread and replicated all across the world and then shut down electricity. So all these little nanobots. It comes to the
No, I didn't
spoilers.
see that.
I remember hearing about it.
But yeah, then
Nanobots, baby.
Exactly, and then America falls back into I don't know, Civil War era, kind of different states fighting with each other. It's pretty interesting. And then they meet the guy who actually made the nanobots or something at some point, and he's like, "Sorry, sorry guys, my bad on that." Yeah, a bit of I know. Well, when politics infuses with science, it's hard to not talk about it to whatever degree. All right, so what else? Should we get on to some tickety talks?
Let's do the one TikTok I'm going to do this week.
All right, let me stop this recording because I think that's that was telepathy tapes and end of the world. Telepathy tapes.
All right.
Maga. All right, let me play some hold music while we're.
So you can do your. You do your TikTok.
Yeah, I was gonna do.
So
I'm gonna do one.
Go.
All right. Yeah, you don't have to.
I got.
You got stuff to.
Still got
Yeah,
prep
shit to
work
do.
for the show tonight.
Yeah, you got to prep for the show, which tonight you're going to be talking about 2024
Asteroid, baby.
something YR4 or something.
Adios, peoples.
So subscribe if
I
you're
will
not
be
already
here.
subscribed. You probably are.
I'll be here next week.
That's right. You'll be here all week, but next week specifically. Oh, you know what? I got to move the camera.
All right.
All right. Bye bye. Bye, chat.
See ya.
See you online tonight. Steve, if you see the hilt to this, or the disc that goes here,
Isn't it in that corner back there? I'll look for it.
I looked, so I could find
All right.
Yeah, we got to get that back up and running. TikTok. Oh, can you push that chair? I'll recenter the TikTok. Stand by, TikTokers. Don't worry. You are not forgotten, even though you are somewhat inaccessible. All right, we're back. Boom. Bye, Bob. I know. Thank you. It's fun having Bob here now.
Mm-hmm.
I see Bob multiple times a week, or twice a week at least. Sometimes if we do Fridays. All right. Let me get that one up and running. Where is it? So it's the animal-human hybrid, right?
Yes.
Right? Yes. Fun. If we want to call it that. All right, stand by. Chatters, if you have any questions, feel free to ask while I'm getting set up. Boop, boop. Bring this back. No,
Any questions?
Any questions? I mean, maybe not any questions, but some questions. Some questions allowed. You can put them in the chat. Oh, you know what? Also, give me something to say in the email. I got to send out the email today. I'm always looking for a phrase or something fun. I mean, we could say Dark Gothic Maga, although we could say the Expanse, something. Give me a phrase, chat, that I can add into there.
What is the Expanse? Expanse is a sci-fi television series where there are 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah, 5 is. Oh, was it?
It's hard science fiction. It's like 200 years in the future where we've colonized this solar system out to Jupiter, basically. There's a Belter community. There's Mars is independent. And there's a lot of political conflict going on. And then thrown into that mix, we encounter aliens.
Yep. Like, it wasn't enough. Revolution had good actors and engaging storylines for the most part. I agree. I thought it was fun. I mean, it was a little goofy, but it was
goofy.
I mean, it's like one of those TV shows where everything's like lit too well. You know how that is sometimes?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, it just makes it not quite dark enough. I don't know. It doesn't seem real. It seems like a lot or something, or a stage.
You feel like you're watching a stage.
Yeah. So, but anyway.
It is funny how subtle things like that can really affect the whole experience.
Right. It's like clearly you're
cinema.
In front of a camera. Like it's not, I'm not somehow following you or whatever. It's not quite as well shot as like The Walking Dead had pretty good cinematography, I feel like, relatively. Anyway, all right, let's move on to this TikTok. Boom. Animal-human hybrids. It's a hybrid. Let me start
It's recording. A hybrid.
All right, let me start.
So now you're telling me that it has been approved in Japan, the ability to mix animal and human DNA, therefore splicing it and creating animal-human hybrids that are allowed to come to term. Now I'm going to let you marinate that for just a second. Are you good? Are we ready to cook this chicken? Now, the reason behind it is supposed to potentially help with human organ donors and transplants. Therefore, if you needed a heart, a liver, a lung, a kidney, you would have access to that quicker, because if you know anything about that, it is a very lengthy process and a very challenging one for those who need organs. But there are some huge red flags and a lot of skepticism attached to it, because they're not entirely sure what the human cells will potentially do to the animal brain. And then there's also the whole thing of religion. I swear every day I wake up, I'm like, what sci-fi movie did I just get a starring role on? What timeline did we just jump on? What universe are we currently residing in? So what do you think? Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Let me know. Put it in the comments. And obviously this is for information, education, and entertainment purposes only, but we need to talk about this.
He said the thing. All right, here we go.
I think we do need to talk about this. This is very interesting, a very cutting-edge technology. I don't think he puts it quite into a proper context there, and if you read the comments, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what a quote-unquote animal-human hybrid means. First of all, the research he's talking about that was improved, goes back to 2019 actually, is not about hybrids so much as chimeras. So technical difference there. A hybrid is when you combine two individuals, two species, two breeds, or two whatever. And it's basically the mixing of the DNA. Whereas here they're talking about chimeras, which are mixing of the cells. Essentially the technology is to take human stem cells and implant them into an animal embryo. Now the reason, and this technology in Japan was approved in 2001. But in 2001, the approval had two interesting restrictions. One was you could not let the embryo develop beyond day 14. And you also could not implant it in a uterus, right? So it would have to be killed after 14 days, and you could never implant it and let it come to term. And you couldn't do brain cells. You could do other organs, other tissues, but no brain cells. In 2019, so now this is 18 years of research later, it was decided in Japan that, well, we've researched this enough so that we can progress to the next stage. So we're going to allow embryos to be developed beyond day 14. They can be implanted, and you can do brain cells. So they lifted those restrictions. And again, this was after almost 2 decades of research where we do have a pretty good idea what's going to happen and what's not going to happen, right? So one of the concerns in 2001 was that, well, if we're putting human brain cells in a mouse, will the mouse brain be different, or will it just be a mouse brain with human neurons? And it turns out it's just going to be a mouse brain with human neurons, right? It's not going to develop into a human brain in a mouse. So that was one concern that was dealt with. And then they also said, yeah, we were getting to a good enough place with this technology that there's probably not going to be any surprises. So we could take the next cautious step and take it one step further. So this isn't coming out of nowhere. This isn't like we have no idea what's going to happen. This is based upon decades of research, and this is just a lifting of restrictions based upon the results that we have so far. Now, why is there so much interest in this type of research and doing either hybrid or chimeric research? These are human, non-human chimeras, specifically what you would call this. And he does mention one reason, because this is part of a program to develop animals that can produce organs for human transplant. Now, some of this is about splicing human genes into animals. The reason for that is you want to give them basically a human immune system. You don't want the human recipient to reject the animal donated organ because it's not human, right? An allogenic rejection, right? You don't want it to be rejected as an allograft. So if however, it wasn't a non-human tissue, it was human tissue, and also you could essentially make it so that the immune system does not trigger an immune response, right? The proteins that are on the donated organ would be neutral to the immune system, so it wouldn't provoke rejection. Right, that's the ultimate goal, is to have organs that won't be rejected by the recipient. Also, it's really nice to grow organs because most people who need organ transplants don't get them. Sure, you can do live donor, you could do cadaveric donors, but there isn't enough to go around. That we have to decide who has priority, who gets these organs. So there is a massive unmet need for organs, and so being able to grow organs in animals could meet that need. And in fact, these could be superior if they're genetically engineered so that they do not provoke rejection. So now, instead of having to spend the rest of your life on anti-rejection drugs and all of the risks that entails, you wouldn't have to do that. So this could be a massive medical advance. But there's another reason to do it as well, and that is to create animal models of disease. How are we going to study, for example, Alzheimer's disease in mice? We can't really do that unless we are looking at human neurons, right? Human cells. So right now we could do that in a couple of ways. We can just look at, could grow human neurons in a petri dish, right? You could grow them. And now you're just looking at a culture of cells. But if we want to look at how those cells are interacting with each other and networking and how they're living in a more of a biological environment, we can create what's called organoids, right? It's like a brain organoid. It's not a brain, but it's a clump of neurons that has some basic preliminary brain-like architecture to it. Not enough to be a functional brain, but enough that we could study brain diseases. We're looking at not just a culture of neurons, but now an organoid, they call it, of neurons, which gets us one step closer. But if we could look at a fully functioning brain in a living animal, and that brain has human neurons, again, it's still a mouse brain with mouse intelligence, but now we have human brain cells, that gives us another step towards being able to study human neurological diseases like Alzheimer's disease. So there's a massive beneficial implications for biological research, and there's massive implications for human organ transplants. This research is worth doing. It should be supported. We have been collectively, been progressing in very careful, small baby steps. This is not just opening the floodgates to the island of Dr. Moreau, right? People have mentioned this is all sweet tooth. No, we're not talking about people with animal characteristics or animals with human intelligence. Nothing like that's happening. This is not creatures that will be like half human and half animal. They're animals that have been biologically or changed, either genetically or cellularly, to have human characteristics that we can use for organ transplant or for research. That's it. The ethics of this are being explored, have been explored. You could find articles online where it's deeply explored. Like, is this research ethical? The general conclusion is, yeah, it's ethical. It meets all the standards for biomedical ethics, as long as it's being done in the careful way that it is. So, no, this is not bizarro world, science fiction world, where you have to get worried that mad scientists are doing crazy stuff, with animal-human hybrids. None of that science fiction stuff is going on. This is just cutting-edge medical technology that we all want. This is definitely worth doing, and is being done in an ethical and careful way.
Excellent. All right, we did it. Hybrid.
A hybrid. It's a hybrid. It's actually not a hybrid. Yeah, it's a chimera, actually. What he's talking about specifically, a human, non-human chimera.
Non-hybrid chimera.
Right. But can you imagine if we just grow heart transplants in pigs?
Pretty awesome.
That don't get rejected at all. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. That is the best pathway to to basically developing organs for transplantation. Mechanical, hearts. There's a limited role for them, but they're never going to be as good as a meaty biological one. Growing them, 3D printing them, we're decades away from that, and that may never work. That's not that promising a pathway, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to be as good as growing a whole organ in an animal, in a living organism. So this is the best pathway that we have to get to growing organs.
Yeah.
Because most people who need an organ transplant don't get it, despite our system in place. You know what I mean? It's a massive unmet need.
Yeah, that is the ethical quandary. But come on. Steve just upset all the furries. Yeah, okay.
Well, if you want to do it for aesthetic reasons, that's different.
that's a little bit different. Are any of you pondering what I'm pondering? No, we're not pondering. We're not pondering anything. Let's see if there's any other questions in the chat. I saw some fly in. Anybody have any other questions?
Nope, I've answered every question that anyone has out there.
Now here's an interesting one, maybe. Dr. Novella, a question many Canadians are asking. Why isn't there more pushback by U.S. citizens? I've suggested they read 2 books to help understand SGU and the wonderful overview by Bill Bryson one summer. Any reply would be appreciated. Thank you for all the work.
You mean against the Trump's nonsense?
Presumably,
I'm assuming.
I assume.
I mean, there is a lot of pushback, but part of the problem, though, is that Trump is engaged in a very deliberate strategy of shock and awe. Right? He said he was going to do this, and he's doing it. And he said, and he and his people, like Bannon and others, have said this is exactly what we're going to do. We are going to flood the zone with so much stuff nobody can keep up with it. By the time you could wrap your head around one thing, 3 more things will have happened. So you'll never be able to have an organized resistance. That's why so much has happened in 2 weeks. This is a feature, not a bug. They're doing this deliberately. Right. So the other thing is what shape is the pushback going to look like? So the Democratic Party is the party of opposition, and we're kind of looking to them. It's like, all right, what are you doing, guys? What's the plan? They're still trying to figure out how to be an effective opposition party to all of this. Again, because they're just there's so much happening all at once. I also honestly think there's a lot of Trump protest fatigue going on. That we kind of shot our wad, with the first term, and nothing didn't really change anything.
Yeah.
So people are like, are we really going to do all this again? It did nothing. It was exhausting, and which is, again, a deliberate strategy to exhaust the opposition. That's not an excuse. And I think that we do need to say, we need to pick our battles. Mm-hmm. Right? We can't, again, some things are thrown out there, I think, just as a distraction.
Yeah.
Like the ending birthright citizenship, I don't think anyone thinks that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's outrageous and it's unconstitutional. And if we spend all of our time talking about that, then we're going to miss some things that are maybe more subtle, that are actually more impactful. Right? And Trump has reversed some of the things, partly because there has been pushback.
Yeah, like the tariffs.
Yeah. So, but again, then it's hard to know. Was he always planning on doing that, or did he really? Did the reaction actually cause him to? Because Trump, among his many failings, is that he likes to be popular.
Right.
But that does become a way to manipulate him, for good and for ill.
Seems like find money interests.
Right. So it'll happen. I think it'll get more targeted, more organized, and also like there's only, I think the Trump end will get exhausted too because there's only so much you can do, and the part of the pushback is going to be legal, and those take time.
Yeah.
But the legal pushback is absolutely already happening. There's multiple lawsuits have been filed, and that's building. That's going to happen. Right now I'm just donating to organizations that do that. Who are going to be fighting the legal battle against what. It's one thing to just complain about it in public. We could do that. That's cheap. But really, it's going to be the legal pushback is going to be the most important thing. But yeah, we shouldn't lay down and be complacent and just go along because that's what they want to happen. They're trying to exhaust us so that that's what happens. And we cannot let that happen. And it's hard. How long could you maintain a fever pitch of outrage? You can't do it.
Yeah. And plus that is kind of the playbook, I think, from them is that they want us
to
be outraged, which is like, yeah, we have a right to be outraged.
Yeah.
But, pick the battles that are most effective to dismantle them, I guess.
I think also just emotionally, a lot of people who are never Trumpers or anti-Trumpers or voted against whatever, they're still, again, emotionally still sorting through it all. Like there's still a little Schadenfreude going on. Like with the latest Gaza thing, part of you is thinking, it's like, all right, so every Democrat who didn't vote for Joe Biden or who voted against Joe Biden because of the whole Gaza thing, this is what you get. This is 100% what you get. You were told this is what you were going to get. You said you didn't care, so now this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say to push back is like desperate people do desperate things, and like they were in a desperate state, and now we're all in a fucking desperate state.
I hear you. I hear you. They were in a desperate state, but they had a year to sort through that. They had a year to sort through their feelings and their emotions and their reaction and make a calculated vote. It's like, all right, am I going to...
But we are politics nerds too. Like we all like that stuff. So you can't always expect...
But if you care about this issue, you can't say, I care enough about this issue to protest openly and to do all this stuff. But what? But I'm not going to understand, to do the little bit of work it would have taken to realize that Trump would be about 1,000 times worse for your issue than the other guy, even though the other guy's imperfect and didn't do things, did things that you didn't like, and you were angry at him emotionally, blah, blah, blah. You have to realize that, and it wasn't even him directly, it was his vice president, but even still, but voting against the interest of your own issue for an emotional reason was always brain dead stupid.
Yeah,
and this is exactly why. And if anyone's out there saying, "Oh, but I never imagined he would do this,"
no, that's
then you're just an idiot who hasn't been paying attention.
That's clear. That's certainly clear. Although to be the whatever to push back a little is like I think we need to hold the Dems' feet to the fire too.
100%.
Pushing them away at the same time. Because voters are only as smart as we can hope they can be.
Yeah.
We do have to coax them and get them on our side. And it is a persuasion thing. It's not just putting math in front of them. You know what I mean? We have to persuade them. And people are persuadable. And if you don't like persuading people, then politics is not the job for you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But hopefully we can get the Dems to let's fucking rally. Let's go. Let's be the opposition.
But we have to be effective.
Right. That's
just scream,
Yeah, that doesn't
from the rooftops and go and march. Let's do a march. Whatever.
It does
there's
some
a place.
Stuff, but
there's
not
a place
enough.
for that, but I mean,
yes.
I think we need to knuckle down to all right. How do we have effective messaging and effective opposition?
Right.
And analysis to understand what's the real risky stuff here.
Yeah.
Like trying to take control of the purse strings, like trying to control the money. That's where the fight is.
Yeah, totally.
Everything. A lot of other things is just distractions. That's the flack.
Right. Yeah.
But the real power grab is in grabbing the power of the purse from Congress. Right. That's where we become a dictatorship, right? That's real.
That's where Dark Gothic Maga might come into play. We might be seeing that. I don't know. 5 out of 4 Americans are bad at math. Mm-hmm. That's perfect. Yeah,
60% of all statistics are made up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so hopefully we can. Yeah. So anyway, so there's more to do. We're not going anywhere. I don't think we have any secret offshore houses anywhere. So unfortunately, we're stuck in good old USA. So.
One other thing, I don't know. I could throw this out there. So we're trying not to announce new content that we haven't made officially yet. Okay. So nothing is official.
Nothing's official, but just for the people who are here.
But for just between us.
Yeah.
We are thinking of doing a political podcast. Yeah. So one that's explicitly political, but from a nonpartisan science perspective, right? We're not going to be just advocating for one political partisan view. Mm-hmm. Not that we won't take views, and it's not going to be the SGU. It's going to be different people. It'll probably be me plus I can't mention any names because no one's agreed to doing it yet. But people with expertise in this area say, all right, let's break down the science and the history and the facts and the logic behind these political issues. The birthright citizenship. All right, let's talk about that. What's the history of that? Why is it important? Yeah. What does it mean? What would it mean if we got rid of it? Let's inform that issue to a deep level. Not to just say Trump is evil or whatever, but to say this is the facts that are relevant to this issue. So you can at least have. Yeah, it's the Skeptic's Guide to Politics, basically. I don't know if we'll call it that, but that's basically what we're talking about. And because I think that we're going to need that over the next 4 years. You can quickly get Andrea, obviously, is on my short list. We haven't spoken to her about it. But she's a political scientist, so obviously it's kind of an obvious choice. But anyway, but also a historian would be good. Whatever. Just there are different people, different skill sets that would be good to put together. It's all right, I want to understand this issue at a deep level, so I can have an informed, opinion about it and know what they're talking about, and not just talk out my ass or just believe whatever my party believes. It's not about partisanship. It's about facts.
No team sports around here. Okay?
Yeah, I think we need that. You let us know what you think about that, or if you have any recommendations. That's one of the things that we're thinking about.
Yeah, there's a bunch
in terms of extra content that I think could be fun and interesting and very educational.
Each show closes with a 5-minute rant from Jay. No, he's going to be behind the camera.
Yeah, Jay would be behind the camera for a show like that. 100%.
So you'll hear him fuming in the background, if anything. But anyway, so that's future stuff is happening. Okay, that's what we know that Steve is now available.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, in July, as of July. So we have a few months to plan. So things may change.
Yeah, who knows if America still exists in July? But we will be in one of those networked, pseudo tech bro states.
In a crypto libertarian nightmare state.
So find us there. Anyway, yeah. Thanks. I think that. Do we have anything else to say? I think that's it, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday. We may do a Friday stream. What are we thinking? Are you away Friday?
I don't know. I think I'm good on Friday.
Good on Friday. Okay, so we'll probably see you on Friday. If you guys have anything you want to send in, you can always tag us on TikTok if you still have it. You can email it to us too. I check the emails, or on the Discord if you guys find any links or videos or weirdness on the internet that you want to send and have us, pull up. We will check it out. It'll be fun.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye bye. Thanks, Ian.
Yes.